Hello again, rail fans. We hope you're having an excellent Christmas season this year. Now, speaking of Christmas, every fall, the big package shippers prepare for the onslaught of the Christmas buying season. Now, what that means for us rail fans is more trains carrying more containers and piggyback trailers. When carrying this holiday traffic for UPS, FedEx, Walmart, and Amazon, the railroads are under pressure to move these trains intact and on time. It's a great time to be out there by the rails.
It's early November, and we're on the CSX at Folkston, Georgia. Ex-Atlantic coastline trackage from the Midwest and the Northeast converges right here to reach the booming market of Florida. While the peak shipping season has not yet started, the mid-fall weather is just too good to pass up a Saturday rail fanning at this premium spot. 14:49, the first train shows up, IO 3703, Intermodal out of Pinoca Yard at Charlotte, North Carolina. This train works Dillon and Charleston, South Carolina, and Savannah, Georgia, terminating at Jacksonville, Florida's Duval Ramp. He usually carries lots of J.B. Hunt containers and does so today. There are also lots of Amazon boxes on board as well. "37 minutes later at 15:22, here comes B63805, empty ethanol tanks coming northbound out of Tampa. This is a regular train between Tampa and Bensenville, Illinois, where it transfers to the CPKC, the new merger name for the Canadian Pacific and Kansas City Southern. There aren't as many of them, and I don't know what the revenue difference is, but these ethanol trains have replaced coal as regular unit trains into Central Florida. From here in Folkston, B638 is headed to Waycross and most likely onto the Fitzgerald subdivision towards Manchester, Atlanta, Knoxville, Corbin, Kentucky, Cincinnati, Dayton, Deschler, Ohio, and finally Proviso, Illinois. "13 minutes later at 15:35, it's IO 2503. Bedford Park, Illinois to Moncrief Yard in Jacksonville and then to Duval Ramp. 25 is regular fast intermodal service with loaded auto racks on the head end. He comes out of Chicago's Bedford Park and goes south via Evansville, Indiana, Nashville, Tennessee, Birmingham, Alabama, Talladega, Alabama, Waycross, Georgia, and Folkston on his way to Jacksonville. It's a 38-hour run from Chicago to the Jacksonville Ramp. "15 minutes pass and the afternoon parade continues. "15:55 and it's I-14303, North Baltimore, Ohio to Jacksonville Duval Ramp. Along the way, this job works Cincinnati, Smyrna, Tennessee, and Fairburn, Georgia. Now, out of the ramp at Fairburn, 143 usually goes south on the X, A, B, and C to Manchester, then down the Fitzgerald sub to Waycross and here in Folkston. But today, due to a maintenance curfew on the Fitzgerald sub, the dispatcher routed him out of Atlanta to Augusta, then down to Savannah, and that's why he's on the A line here instead of coming off the Waycross side today. By November 11th, the peak season has started. The Jax Ramp, otherwise known as Duval, is where all this action terminates on the CSX. NS has its own intermodal operation at its Simpson yard right near here. It's midday on Saturday, but you can tell things are getting busier. The parade of trucks hauling chassis for the container boxes never seems to end. Plus, the numbers of Amazon and Walmart boxes is picking up. In the coming days, they'll approach the dominance of the normal intermodal customer brands like J.B. Hunt, Crowley, and Pacer Stack Train. In 2 more weeks, CSX will have added 4 extra peak season trains to handle the rush between here and North Bergen, New Jersey, and Penn Mary Yard, Baltimore. Duval Yard, what many employees still call Jax Ramp, was built in 1986 by CSX component Seaboard System. The railroad's piggyback business, what we now call Intermodal, was growing and starting to crowd in on regular freight car traffic in Jacksonville's Moncrief Yard. So this land west of town was acquired and connections were built to the 2 major main lines. Three and a third miles south of the yard is Duval Connection. This is where the Seaboard System connected their new intermodal yard to the Seaboard Tallahassee, Maine, allowing a route west to Tallahassee and Pensacola, as well as south to Wildwood, Tampa, Lakeland, Orlando, and Miami, plus a connection going east out of here and back towards downtown Jax and Moncrief Yard. This train, daily afternoon outbound I-02611, is headed to none of those places. He's headed out onto the Tallahassee, Maine to Baldwin, but there he'll turn northward onto the Callahan sub, run the 20 miles on it to Callahan, where he'll turn left onto the ACL Savannah, Maine, also known as the A-Line. This is a benefit of the well-designed and well-placed Duval Ramp. The southern exit allows yardmasters to send trains out this way, keeping them off the crossing at Densmore with the Norfolk Southern's GS&F Maine to Valdosta, which is NS's only north side route into Jacksonville. I can't know for sure, but I-026 is probably a lot of empty containers headed back northward to Bedford Park, Illinois, Chicago. What we can see for sure is the high number of Amazon Prime containers on this train. The consist is peppered with them from the first car behind the engines to the end of train marker, all headed back northward. I set up in Callahan later that same afternoon on November 11th. There was a northbound train holding on the Callahan sub coming out of Baldwin. He was apparently holding for this guy, southbound I-02510, that daily Chicago to Jacksonville intermodal with auto racks on the head end. He comes via Evansville, Nashville, Birmingham, and Waycross. This is a legit hotshot priority, and while it's a regular train, I'm sure he's loaded with peak season Christmas traffic. I just wish the weather had been a little better. Oh well, you get what you get. Minutes later, we see why the Callahan side train was held here for I-025. It's M22211, northbound out of Baldwin, Florida, for Montgomery, Alabama. In the same way 4 aces beats a pair of 2s, a hotshot loaded piggyback train beats an empty auto rack train every time. M222 was abolished not long after this and apparently has become M208, Taft, Orlando to Birmingham. Peak season or not, all the regular business has got to run. Only about 12 minutes passes when M44111 shows up. 441 is a daily train made up in Waycross, Georgia for Tampa, Florida. His lineage runs clear back into the SCL days. This train always has the whole list of commodity and car types. Building materials, sand, cement, chemicals, frozen foods, empty center beams, hoppers loaded with gravel, boxcars loaded with you name it, and loaded center beams. On December 2nd, we're back in Folkston at the annual Winterwatch Railfan gathering. Usually perfect weather, if a little chilly, it's not that this year. With drizzling rain since just before sunup, rail fans have nevertheless turned out for the semi-annual meetup, defending themselves against the drizzle and the chill with tents, big umbrellas, or hoodies. It's about 14:50, and on track 2 here comes IO 3202, a peak season extra carrying Tropicana juice, double stacks, and piggybacks. Coming out of Jacksonville, he's northbound, headed for North Bergen, New Jersey. "30 seconds elapses and down comes IO 3702. He's on track 1 coming out of Pinoka Yard, North Carolina. Northbound was sizable for a special train, 12,052 feet. Later on, we see the daily IO 2602, Jacks to Chicago. Lots of Amazon Prime boxes aboard 26 on this rainy Saturday. Here's a cut of World Direct boxes on a 5-unit articulated car and 1 double-stack well car. This company ships out of Mexico's ports on the Gulf straight across to Port Manatee on Tampa Bay. From there, containers go by truck or rail to customers in the eastern U.S. After that, it's a cut of UPS trailers. And finally, a solid block of 20 Amazon Prime containers. Peak season is rocking on the CSX. On the way home from my November 11th trip, I chased a train back home to Tampa. I-145 and I caught up with each other at Wildwood around 20:30. A northbound freight was just pulling out when I pulled up. I believe this was M452. As soon as the northbound cleared, out popped the headlight of southbound I-14511, a Saturday version of I-045. 145 is slowing to a stop in front of the Wildwood crew office. I'd learned from listening to my scanner that I-145 was to meet I-044 here at Wildwood, and the crews would swap. Not a recrew, this was a bona fide crew swap, a meet and greet in railroad slang. Each crew transfers to the other train and takes it on ahead to the terminal they just came from. Pretty smart. Now let's watch something that's not so smart. Watch the rails reflecting the headlights. One trip, one stumble in front of that 30-mile-an-hour train, and you'd have a tragedy here. Waiting for that train would have cost them about 2 minutes. Not worth it. The train is B796. Northbound empty ethanol tanks out of Tampa, going via Birmingham to Linden, Indiana. He wasn't going the track speed of 50, but he wasn't dragging his feet either. That's 3 trains in half an hour here at Wildwood. Things are starting to feel like the old days around here. He gives a few honks on the horn to make sure anyone on any adjacent tracks knows he's here. Finally, at 2106, northbound I-04411 comes tiptoeing up to the meeting point. He gets the train stopped, and the crew comes off. The I-044 crew has 4 members tonight. I forgot to ask them why, possibly training or maybe qualifying. After each of them exchange greetings, they quickly board the other train. While one crew member checks conditions on the locomotives, the conductor tones up the dispatcher to notify him of the swap.
I-14511, over.
I-14511.
I run this 044, need to get these bolts switched over.
Alright, you got the 49969 over.
That is correct.
49969 active for I-04411 at 2111 CGL, over.
I show that at 2111 CGL.
And then the other crew talks to the dispatcher.
145, you on here?
145, over.
You got the 49900, over.
Yes, that is correct. 49910, I'm sorry, 49900.
49900 active I-14511 2112 CGL. Bridge where you stand, pick up single indication, over.
Alright, 49900. Activated 2112 CGL for I-14511. Permission to move from where we stand, over.
That's correct, over.
I understand, thank you. Have a good night.
You too. James Pescher.
After a few more minutes of preps, I-04411 is ready. 2 taps on the horn, brakes released, and throttle up. With a cut of loaded Tropicanas on the head end and mostly empty trailers and containers on the bottom, he glides on northward through Wildwood Yard and out onto the main line to Ocala, Waldo, Lawdy, Baldwin, and finally Duval Ramp in Jacksonville. No sooner does I-044 clear the yard than I-045 lights up, sounds his horn, and goes southward. 45's consist is the mirror image of 44's. Empty Tropicanas on the head end and loaded trailers and containers following. He slides into the Wildwood darkness, rolling on a limited clear signal towards Bushnell, Dade City, Lakeland, Plant City, and finally Uceta Ramp in Tampa.
11-7232, limited clear, Wildwood South, track 2 to 1.
The next day I'm out at Tampa's Uceta Yard. This is the Atlantic coastline side of the big SCL combined train yards. It's where they built the piggyback ramp for their intermodal business. Uceta is nowhere near the size of Jacksonville's Duval Ramp. The business here has never been heavy enough to need anything larger. This ramp handles only 2 trains a day, one in and one out. When I got here, they were already in progress loading tonight's I-044 northbound train. Peak season looks like it's in high gear in Tampa. There's a whole section of the parking lot that's all Amazon boxes. Christmas gifts pouring into the Tampa area's multiple Amazon distribution centers. That's what the crew is loading right now. Empties coming back from those warehouses and going to wherever they're needed on Amazon's network. Uceta does not have the big gantry cranes like Jax, North Baltimore, and Winter Haven use. They get trains loaded and unloaded with a Heister RS-46 reach stacker container handler. Basically a big overhead forklift crane with a special grabber that locks on to containers from above. then enables lifting or lowering onto either spine cars, well cars, or onto truck trailer chassis. I watched this action for about 30 minutes, and it seems like each lift, that is, from when the truck pulls the container alongside to when the reach stacker turns loose of the container seated on the rail car, takes about 80 seconds. In between shooting all this material for peak season, I visited my friends at the Central Florida Railway Historical Society. I spoke at their monthly meeting in Winter Garden, and they always take me to dinner beforehand. This time, it's right down the street, a new place called Pammie's Sammies. Pammie and her husband are big music buffs with heavy emphasis on Beatles. They even run their own 24/7 streaming radio station. Everything has the 70s rock and roll theme. The menus are all pasted into double album covers. That's vinyl albums to you folks born after the millennium. On the advice of Society VP Bill Puckett, I got the Feelin' Groovy burger, minus onion and pickle. Absolutely delicious. Burger was done perfectly, fresh lettuce and tomato, and the Kaiser roll was toasted. Really good hamburger. Pammie Sammies is on Boyd Street in downtown Winter Garden, 1 block south of the Central Florida Railroad Museum, which you should also visit. It's just a small-town railroad station on an ex-Seaboard branch, but they have refurbished it and built a massive assembly of just about every kind of railroad collectible. The Central Florida Railroad Museum is open Tuesday through Saturday in downtown Winter Garden, and it won't cost you a dime to go in and see it all. But be sure to ask one of the members to show you around. You'll never see it all by yourself.
Now, if you're going to be anywhere around the Central Florida area, Orlando, Tampa, anywhere, slide over to Winter Garden and just take a peek at the Central Florida Railroad Museum they have over there. It's on Boyd Street, downtown Winter Garden, and they just do a fantastic job with what they have over there. So get over there and take a look. Now, peak season is definitely a good period for intermodal fans to get out by the rails and see some trains, usually pretty fast ones too. Both CSX and Norfolk Southern's piggyback trains are busy from Thanksgiving right up through the week of Christmas, so you got plenty of time out there every season to see these trains. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and comment down in the comments section down below. I read all of those, and I get a lot of video ideas from you guys in the comments section, so those are much, much appreciated. And until we meet up again somewhere out there on the high iron, somewhere soon, I hope, this is Danny Harmon, out.